We turn our gaze now to a conversation that is very inclusive of everyone. Those that work and dream to shape our future recognize that at the core of transformation and progression is the inclusion of women. We know that women are the channels for economic productivity in this country. So what are we doing to ensure that we call out gender bias and inequality? This is what's being confronted under the theme of #ChooseToChallenge that was issued for this past International Women's Day, and award-winning digital marketer and international speaker and podcaster Lebo Lion joins us right now via video call to share how we can all embody this message. Lebo, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Gutle. This is a really important conversation, and I'm really excited to have it with you.
And I want everyone else of all sexes, of all genders, of all ages to also engage in this conversation. But we're going to take it back and talk about you for a second. You started your own tech company at the age of 24. That's big. What sorts of learning curves have you come across that you now apply in your PR and marketing agency?
You know, starting a tech company at the age of 24 was hectic for me because I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing it solely on passion. And, you know, I learned over time that passion is not enough to help you succeed or to help you run a successful business. And I think the greatest thing that I learned in tech and having a tech company is knowing how to stand my ground and believe in my voice in a room full of people who don't see me as an adequate player in the industry. You know, there aren't a lot of women in the industry. Female voices are almost non-existent in these spaces. You have to fight. You know, you really have to believe in yourself. You really have to say, listen to me. And you have to have the courage to have people looking at you, to have people holding you at a higher standard, and to be able to perform at that level time and time and time again. So I think having that company really gave me a backbone. You know, it made me exercise all the things that I was taught as a young woman, you know, in high school and at home, to believe in myself, to have the courage to speak. Being in that industry taught me how to do that because you can't survive if you don't know how to speak for yourself and to believe in your own voice, you know. And even when you're wrong, just having the courage to say, I'm wrong, but I still belong here. I think I learned how to do that through having a tech company.
I love that. And it's very important to learn those principles for yourself at such a young age to avoid what we understand as imposter syndrome, where you feel like you don't belong in a certain place because of your gender or your skin color, or because you feel like you're inadequate because you're not receiving the same respect as, you know, your counterparts or your colleagues. And I can imagine, especially in the tech space. But now I want to bring it back to International Women's Day. Why do you think this year's theme of #ChooseToChallenge is very appropriate and necessary in 2021?
I mean, we're coming from a Me Too movement. We're coming from a time when Black women's voices, just in general, are being amplified online and on media channels in a way that they've never been amplified before. And so in doing that, it's been able to expose stories about the challenges that women are facing in the world. And that's also challenged the media, and it's challenged organizations to say, okay, how do we treat women in our organizations? Are we creating an environment that's easy for them to work in, that's fair, that's inclusive? It's really calling on people in power to think about how they do things, to think about the culture in their businesses, and to change it to impact society in a better way, you know? So I think the Choose to Challenge hashtag is also really appropriate because you're seeing that the new generation of women are fearless. You know, they're not afraid to speak their piece. They're not afraid to call truth to power. And so they're not willing to work in organizations or be part of movements that don't allow them to express themselves, you know? So I think it's almost showing the work that's been done by your people like Oprah and women in the Me Too movement. It's highlighting the impact of that, but it's also celebrating the fact that, you know, the new generation of women are fearless. They're not afraid to speak. And so we have to have environments that actually foster a space that allows women now to be who they are born to be and to enact their talents and everything else that they want to do in those spaces.
A big shout out to you for using that platform, your platform, to drive these conversations, to catalyze change within our society, because what we tend to forget is the inclusion of Black people into society, the inclusion of women into society is not stepping backwards. Instead, it's progression, and we are elevating to a whole different level that would be a great space for humans to just live. But now, before we wrap up our conversation, Lebo, I need to ask your advice, on the kinds of strategies you can share with future female leaders as pioneers on how they can challenge the status quo.
I have a segment on my Instagram called The Family Meeting. And this is basically a gathering of anybody who feels like they want to challenge the status quo, anyone who feels like they want to soar in their lives, anyone who feels like they want to improve their lives in one way or another. We meet weekly to have conversations about the things that make us uncomfortable or the challenges that we're facing in society, And I'd say one of the most underrated ways to overcome challenges in society, or to even overcome your own fears, is to have conversations with other people who are trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of social media. Those conversations allow us to connect. And when you connect, you even find that you might know somebody from that group that you've joined on Facebook or wherever the case may be, who's actually in your organization, who could help you with the challenge that you're facing at work or wherever you may be. So for me, it's have conversations. Don't be afraid to talk about the things that you're facing, because if you're afraid to talk about them, then you're never going to be able to fix them and really confront them and get the help that you need to fix those things. So I think 2021 is the year of being brave. And by being brave, we mean it's about talking. It's about asking for help. It's about being part of communities that are progressive and that are impacting society in the right way. It's a different way to be bold. It's a different way to be courageous. And it's a different way to stand out. It's a way of doing good. And in doing that, you are able to achieve the things that you want to achieve.
We are already within an entire global pandemic, so why not challenge the systems that are put in place for a better outcome for everyone? Lebo Lion, thank you so much for coming through and sharing your experience and expertise here on your Feel Good Breakfast show. Where can we get you on social media so that we could also be a part of the family meeting?
Thank you for having me, Kuhle. If you want to get in touch with me or engage in any of my content, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, every single social media platform at Lebo Lion, lion like the animal _SA, at Lebo Lion _SA.
Women, everybody, children, go out there and be fearless and challenge the status quo.